Welcome everyone. Sean here with MJ for another episode of Zero to Hero. Last week was the first episode of season 1, where we're going to take this project horse, Nomad ERAT, and really kind of dive into the data and see if we could improve horse racing outcomes using data-driven racing strategies. So last week was our first week. Today we are going to kind of review the numbers and the stats from last week, and then we'll quickly kind of discuss whether or not we're going to tweak our strategy or what we're going to do moving forward for the next week. And then we're going to open it up to some Q&A. I think this particular series is really geared towards new players to Zed, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we will take a look at those. MJ, how are you?
Good. Doing well. Yes, welcome everyone. And even if you have questions not related to Zero to Hero specifically or Nomad, please feel free to ask them. We'd be more than happy to help out any new player in any way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Got some people already in the chat. Hello, Gutters, Coach Steve Worka, Zed Chateau. I see you guys. Thank you all for being here. All right, first things first, MJ, if you want to go ahead and maybe give us the Zetalytics update. I know you had made an update to your tool, so I was going to see if you wanted to speak about that.
Yeah, very exciting. First, we're almost at 200,000 races. We'll probably cross that mark this week worth of data. For those of you that aren't as familiar with it, what you're looking at when you first load it up is just kind of a series of averages, looking at Zed ecosystem as a whole. So total number of races, the average place, average odds, average earnings, win rate, and then distribution of where horses finish, first through third. So in the money, 4 through 8, kind of that deadly middle area, then 9 through 12, good for downclassing, looking at an average speed in kilometers per hour. And then the two kind of new columns I added are these verse Z columns. And so the first one that you have there is looking at your speed. So when you type in your actual horse name, you can see how your horse compares to ZEDRUN on average. So yeah, if Sean pulls up Nomad here, you can see in the verse Z column, for example, at 1600, Nomad is running 0.07 kilometers per hour slower than what the Z ecosystem runs, or all of Z kind of runs at that distance. However, if you scroll all the way down to 2400, you can see that Nomad runs 0.3 kilometers per hour faster. Same thing with the next two columns. You've got standard deviation, and then the verse Z there as well. So is your standard deviation larger or smaller than Z as a whole?
Right. How might someone use that? Say if they were maybe new to Zed and they were going to shop for a horse.
Yeah.
How might they use that? Just to look and see if they're quicker than the average, right?
Yeah, exactly. And little spoiler alert, little tease, might be coming out with something very soon to help people evaluate horses pre-purchase. Kind of expansion of kind of these things. So look for that coming out shortly.
Awesome.
So the way that you'd look at this is, having higher or lower speed, like having both of them positive isn't necessarily always guarantee that you're going to perform well. There are different kind of combinations you can look for. And I kind of have some of it outlined up top a little bit. But if you have a horse with an average speed in kilometers per hour and a higher standard deviation, that means kind of the range and the width of the slowest time and the fastest time is going to deviate more from that average. So there's a chance then for a U shape, you'll have some more finishes first through third, more finishes 9 through 12, theoretically. But then if you have a lower standard deviation, so you're running your races kind of more consistently at a specific speed, and that speed is faster, you are most likely to finish kind of in the top maybe 3 or higher numbers than you are 9 through 12. If you have a lower standard deviation and a low speed, you're most likely to finish middle because you're kind of, instead of the wide range, you're in the middle, and then your speed's in the middle as well. So yeah, that's kind of a rundown in like the different combinations, some of the different combinations you can use to look at for this. And if you have a horse with not many races, don't get discouraged if your speed and your standard deviation aren't fantastic or aren't as clear cut. It's going to develop over time. I didn't hit my top speed with one of my horses till I was over 100 races in. Oh, sorry, it's for people are trying to post the link in chat. It looks like they're having some trouble. I'll throw it in there. It's I think it's a mod setting. Sorry. Throwing that in right there for you guys. So if anyone wants access, it is completely free. Go ahead and use it. Absolutely. Yeah, type in your horse, hit enter, and it'll all kind of populate for you.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Good stuff, man. Looking forward to the update. I mean, I know this is something in the community we've talked about quite a bit, but it really feels like it's a buyer's market. I mean, would you agree with that right now? I mean, have you been shopping lately or anything like that?
I'm not shopping yet. Hopefully soon. But I've been looking, and I've seen I feel some really, really good deals, or at least some horses that, if you're new, you don't have many horses, you could get something. One that I was looking at ended up being around $140 total, and it had something like 20 races in it. I was getting around 11 odds. Rare that you'd find something like that, but like for that price, that could be like a really fun starter horse to get in. I think it was a legendary or exclusive. But yeah, those kind of legendary exclusive elite prices are a little more accessible than things were a few weeks ago, pre-breeding, or months ago now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it just feels like a much better time to be new to Zed with the stuff that I've seen on the marketplace. Comment in chat here. I'm going to read it real quick. What's up, guys? Just getting into Zed. Loving all the information you guys hand out. Keep up the good work. Awesome. We're going to do some Q&A at the end. Throw your questions in the chat. I think next, MJ, we can go ahead and talk about the first week and kind of review the numbers.
Sure. So absolutely.
I'm going to bring that up. And so here, what we see on screen is going to be kind of before I bought this horse on the left-hand side, and then this past week is on the right-hand side. And so MJ's put together a really easy to follow along spreadsheet for us to kind of look at this data. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of run through some of these, and me and MJ can talk about it. So before I purchased this horse, it had been ran 61 times. You can see here 5 first place finishes, 7 second place, and 1 third place. Now let's contrast that with this week, the first week of 0 to Hero. We raced it 23 times. This is something that I kind of did intentionally. I'm trying to kind of find a good cadence where, it's relatable for the average Zed player. So I'm not going to run it like 100, on cooldown as much as possible. I'm going to try to run it 3 to 5 times a day, sort of similar to like what we can expect a casual Zed Run player to do, right? So I ran 23 races total. As you can see, not one single dub. It's funny because me and MJ were talking a little bit during the week, and we had some close finishes. One of them we'll get to, but let's move on to the second place finishes. We finished 3 times in second place. This is going to be 13.04% of the total races. So that was an improvement from pre-0 to Hero. Third place, we finished twice. That was 8%. Again, that is an improvement. So, MJ, we were kind of prepping for this, and we were kind of talking like we just really need one win. You know what I mean? Like we're so close.
Yeah. It's so close, but it's so far. Like I like to see that we're kind of like on track to be around like just looking at like averages. I know it won't necessarily play out this way, but like for the second and for the third, we've already got that beat. So that number is only going to stay the same or go up once we eventually hit that 61 and 61 mark. But yeah, if we could just give me one win. I just want one win.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's, some of the races I had entered into, before I went to bed is first thing I did when I woke up to check those. And yeah, I'm super anxious to get that dub. As far as in the money percentage, we did better there. I mean, that's like probably one of the the most important things that I'm trying to improve with this horse is just the amount of times that we finish in the money. Now let's look here at the kind of distribution of the finishes. And one thing I did notice, and I'm sure you noticed as well, MJ, is that this horse, I mean, it gets a lot of 9 through 12. You know, what do you are we seeing a U-shaped horse in the making? What do you make of that?
I hope so. I really do. I really, really do. The thing that I'm most excited about, kind of looking at our distribution of our finishes, is that percentage-wise, we maintained 1 through 3, more or less, and 9 through 12 went up, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but we cut out 4 through 8.
Right.
And that makes me really, really happy because I hate those spots. And so it's not necessarily, the 9 through 12 isn't as beneficial, in my opinion, for Nomad because it's already a class 5 horse. Mm-hmm. But if you bought a horse that was in class 3 or class 4 even, and you're running this way, you're most likely going to downclass at least one class pretty naturally without really forcing it, and while maintaining at least that show percent for now. So kind of so far so good. And I think talking about maybe like, we can do that in a little bit, but like how you went about choosing races, I think would be really important too.
Right. And you know, we talked about it last week about race selection strategy. I mean, the truth be told, it is really hard to kind of assess the field and still get into the race, right? I mean, this is something, especially with the lower dollar races, I found it difficult to do. So, I mean, that's something that I don't know what will improve that. Maybe more races. I'm not exactly sure the solution to that, to pick better races. But for maybe those of us that or those in the chat that weren't here last week, do you just want to kind of quickly hit the bullet points of the race selection strategy?
Yeah. So what we did is we started with my tool, Zetalytics, and we identified a preferred distance. We started with 1600. And then we ran a few races at 1600. It's currently listed, as the number 1 distance right up there. It was because it was very close to like averages. It had a slightly larger than average standard deviation, but basically the same and very similar speed. So that's kind of in the realm of example 1 that we talked about earlier with standard deviation. It got great odds there. Its win rate was obviously higher at that point, I believe. Right. And that's gone down now. So then as we ran some races, I guess we can get into that later, but we identified a preferred distance. We went then to Know Your Horses. We plugged in that preferred distance, and then looked for races in the class on Zed. So if you want to pull up an open race, just any race or distance. And this is kind of a little...
doesn't look like there's one at the moment.
Just hop in one just so we can show the odds.
Sure.
And then the theory, the idea is that we'd look at those average odds. That first column is average odds by class and distance. And so you would then compare and say, okay, my horse's average odds are like 9.56. I want to try and get in a race where those odds are no worse than the 4th best odds in the race, to try and improve at least odds, give a chance of improving performance. And Sean, I'll give you a lot of credit here. I was spot checking a handful of the races, and it looks like you did a great job at that, or coming very close to it. Now, it's kind of to your point, it's hard to do because if a race is filling up, you've got 10 slots full. You can't necessarily always guarantee that those last few slots are going to fill up with odds that are worse than yours. Right. But it's a chance to do better. Right. So, and I think that really shows kind of in the data.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, it was challenging. I mean, I kind of did the best that I could, but if anyone races at the $2 entry level, like you've all kind of experienced the same thing where they fill up really quickly, and sometimes you don't get a chance to come here. Sometimes you just really kind of are making your best judgment call by what you see on the Zed platform in terms of the wins and the amount of races and stuff like that. So I mean, this is, in a perfect world, we could do this every time. Not always possible with the amount of people racing. I mean, the amount of new horses that are out there is like insane. I mean, I don't know what I expected it to be like after breeding came back, but I mean, it is wild. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how quick it fills up. But yeah, no, you did, it's not easy, and you did a really nice job.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So yeah, we did have a talk kind of early on in the week, and we pivoted from the 1600 to the 1800, right? And
Yep.
what do you want to kind of highlight exactly what it was that you saw there?
Yeah. If you want to pull up the Zetalytics.
Sure.
So we had run a handful of races at 1600, and we had finished what, 9th, 4th, 10th, 10th, 7th, 11th, 11th.
Right.
And kind of like I said, our win rate started higher and then started to like dwindle a little bit. So then I just kind of went down one in my tool, saw that at 1800, again, kind of similar. That standard deviation difference was a little higher. The speed was a little worse, but similar-ish. And we also had, for the amount of races, a decent-ish win rate with some races behind it. So started to go that route, and really that's when things started to change and kind of pivot for the horse. That's when we started getting our seconds and our thirds.
Right, exactly. Yeah, important to note that we had zero luck at the 1600 level. We spoke in the middle of the week, and MJ said, "Hey, let's pivot here and let's see what happens." So yeah, that was a decision that we made, and that brings us to what we're going to do on kind of the week moving forward. Right, is like every week we're going to kind of assess after 1 week, talk about what we did, if we adjusted anything, and then let you guys know exactly what we're going to do moving forward. Again, if you guys want to track this horse, feel free to track it. I mean, I had some friends, they gave me a little bit of a smack talk about not getting a win, stuff like that, but feel free to follow along with this horse. I'm sure you'll see it on the track out there in Class 5. But as far as the week 2 strategy, we kind of decided that we're going to stick to 1800, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I guess part of the reason that is we didn't run that many races in 1800. I think what we want to do is really get into a little bit more races this week, and then kind of, again, like I said, we're kind of 1 win away from really seeing some improvement here overall. So I think that'll be the plan moving forward. I'm going to try to do 4 or 5 races a day, something like that, depending on the wait times. And then in a week from now, when we come back on here, I think, MJ, do you think we'll have enough data to kind of decide then whether or not we'll stay at the 1800 level?
Yeah, I think that'll be good. We are seeing some traction at 18, and getting like another full week's worth of races at 18 would definitely be help kind of solidify strategy going forward. The other thing kind of to point out too is that like no tool, my own included, is going to be bulletproof or perfect. It's just meant as a guide, and
Right.
kind of that's how we're using it, and you've got to be flexible with it.
Right.
And we're also pulling some really nice odds at 1800 too.
Right.
We are
Right,
getting
yeah.
like right
Average
around
odds
8,
came
mid 8.
down. Yeah, average odds did come down, right?
Yeah. So looking at row 13 there, 10.35 to 9.57. So just like overall in this period, we are now sub 10 odds horse. I think is really, really cool.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing is, when we kind of just made what I would consider just a little tweak. We just were consistent with our race selection. You know what I mean? That was one of the things we talked about last week, about whoever owned this horse previously. They were a little bit all over the place, right? I mean, they were running in a lot of different entry fee races. a couple different classes and stuff like that. So there wasn't a lot of consistency with the racing strategy prior. And I think, this kind of speaks to when you really kind of hone in on your strong distance and entry fee, you could see some improvement. I mean, this was, in 23 races, we're able to come down almost an entire point on odds.
Yeah.
So that was good. I mean, the median and the average speed, a little worse there. Do you think that's significant, or what do you think about that?
I'm not terribly worried about it, at least not yet. They're close-ish. So yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
Right. I mean, it's about a hair off, so it's not anything we're going to worry about. But yeah, moving forward, I think we're going to do the same distance, the same amount, and try to run a little more, slightly more races than we did this week. And again, guys, remember, this is an experiment. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we could drive this horse into the ground, or we could really end up with something special. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the fun of it all, wouldn't you say? I mean, for me,
100%.
It's not like we're jamming donkeys into these races or running free races or anything like that. I mean, this is the real deal Holyfield. You guys can follow it along and track the progress. And
nothing's guaranteed.
Exactly. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. We got looks like a lot of questions in chat. Maybe we could start getting onto those. Now that we've kind of reviewed the numbers and we know exactly what we're going to do on the week moving forward. So I'm going to bring up the Twitch chat for a little Q&A, guys. If you're new, feel free to drop any sort of question that you have. Remember that this episode will be on MJ Stable's Twitch page as a VOD, available immediately after we get off. And then in a couple days, I'll have it uploaded over to YouTube. So I'm going to switch this out to Q&A, and we could start finding some questions here.
Absolutely.
You want to grab the first one? Grab one you like.
Sure. So yeah, I'm scrolling up.
I see one from Mod Dogs here. If results,
go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read this one. Thank you for the questions, guys. Keep them coming in the chat. Mod Dog says, if results at one distance are good, but odds are better at the other distance, follow the odds or the results? That's a good question, MJ. What would you say to that? So it's a horse that's got results on one distance, but odds at another.
So my question to that is, how many races do you have at both of those distances? And then what is the difference in odds? Are you off by, like $1 or $2 worth of odds, or are you off by like 5 or 6? And where's that breaking point? Are you pulling, 12 and 17 odds, or are you pulling like 8 and 11? I'll see if I can pull the horse up. So I think that really needs to be kind of considered or weighed when evaluating this. I'm trying to throw the horse into.
I think I could find its objection is the name. Maybe we could look it up for Mod Dogs. Okay, this looks like it here. So you could take a look, and I'll put the information here on the screen. So Mod Dog says, my horse objection has better results at 1,200 since I bought it after 10 races, but comes last most times at 2,200 with better odds though. So it's getting good odds at the 2,200 level, but it's getting better results at the 1,200 level.
Better odds at 22 better. Okay, so you're looking at about 1,508 odds at 2,200 paid, about 1,709 odds at 1,200 paid. 15 and 11, so we've got a similar sample size for races. Average place, yes, much better at 1,200. You're kind of close with your speed and standard deviation. Let me see what we got there. And you're profitable there. Yeah, I like 1,200. 1,000 could be interesting. in that you are running it faster again than average. Your standard deviation's a little worse though. 2,200 paid. You got 11 races. I'd be more interested in 12 over 22, despite the odds difference. And I'd focus on maybe your race selection if you can, and try and get those odds numbers down. And I think that could help.
Right. One of the comments in chat from Cyrus, thank you for that comment. Odds are going away, follow the winds, at least until we see what replaces the odds. Right. I mean, I could definitely understand that point of view. All right. Do we have another question here we could get to? Got a comment from Apes Racing. Placement can be important, but I'd want a larger sample size than 10 races. Getting 12th with low odds through 10 races is a good sign.
Yeah. I'm excited. Fingers crossed. I'm just waiting for that bubble to burst and for a horse to take off. I see one from Linux Z, if I'm saying that right. 2 questions. Do you think feeding a horse on Haku actually helps? It increased my horse's expected odds by 2%. Also, is higher standard deviation better? Is lower number better? I don't think feeding a horse on Haku actually helps. But that would be awesome if it was, because I'd just be sitting here just feeding my horse all day long.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't think it's actually connected to the Zed platform in any way. But that's awesome if your expected odds improved. Higher standard deviation, better or lower number? It depends on how fast your horse is running, in my opinion. If you're running at an average speed, you'd want a higher standard deviation. If you're running at a faster speed, you can have a lower standard deviation. The examples on my website kind of outline a few use cases and how it can be different for you.
Right. Exactly. All right. I have a question from C-Dub. Is winning higher stakes races harder because people are intentionally classing down? My horse seems good and is moving up in class, but struggles at races above minimum, even with sometimes decent odds.
What was the first part of that?
He says, is winning higher stakes races harder because people are intentionally classing down? My horse seems good and is moving up in class, but struggles at races above them. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, on the low entry versus the higher dollar entry and what that does to the competition? I
think the higher entry fee is more difficult. Usually, I've entered some $5 races myself lately. I don't have any amazing like rockstar horses, but I think you're going to get the horses and the stable owners that know their horses are better. They want to try and, make a little bit more money. So they're going to go in, they can take that chance on that higher entry fee. Because it's not as much of it's a big loss still, but not too bad for them. So I think that as you go up in entry fee, the difficulty becomes at least slightly more difficult on average.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know when we get a new horse, we're not sticking them in $20 races, right? I mean, it's like when you're trying to figure out a horse, it's like, let me get in a bunch of $2 races, run it 10, 20, 30 times, whatever the case may be. And then, you go from there. So in general, I think it's just stiffer competition on average.
Yeah.
The local boy with a good question. Sean mentioned this on your stream. What do you think about running Nomad in a higher class? Odds are maybe 2 points off, but speed is better and win rate is better. Maybe something about with Nax running better at a higher class. I mean, that is something that I've kind of thought about throughout the week. We're gonna stay in class 5, kind of what we're set at least for the week moving forward, and then perhaps we could try that. But what are your thoughts on that, MJ? When you're a class 5 horse and and you're running like a class 5 horse, what do you think about kind of going up just one class if you see any signs there?
I like staying in class.
Right.
Maybe if it's a free race and I know it's a preferred distance, I'd go up one. But yeah, I like staying in class, racing in class, because I think that like no matter your breed, blood, your horse is going to race how your horse is going to race. And I think it's meant to be. I don't love the class system, but meant to be in that class for a reason.
Right. Right. Kind of like one of those it'll work itself out type of things, If you're meant to go up in class, it'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Rhino just wants a quick explanation of the standard deviation thing. I'm going to refresh here and bring up Nomad, and we could bring up those stats here. Good question. Thank you for that, guys. Any question whatsoever about ZED or how we look at data, how to use this tool that MJ has built, feel free to drop it in the chat. But this is the standard deviation column. I'll let MJ kind of take over and school us on that.
Sure. So standard deviation is like how often does your horse deviate from its like median like a median speed. So a wider standard deviation means it's going to, like if you take your median, your middle number, it's going to go slower a good amount and it's going to go faster a good amount. If your standard deviation's low, it's going to run most likely at its median speed more often. So if you have a really fast horse and you have a low standard deviation, that could be good because it's going to consistently run at that speed. Whereas if you have a very average speed with a wider or bigger standard deviation, you'd have potential of more of like a U shape in that it's going to run slow a good amount and it's going to run fast a good amount. So that average is really just kind of the middle in between those 2 points, more so, at least theoretically.
Right. And standard deviation is taking into account faster than the median and slower than the median, right?
Yep.
It's just away from the median in either direction.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Yeah. My dogs had a quick point there. Can you have a standard deviation just to the upside or downside? It would be one or the other. But like you're saying with it could be on both sides and that could be the U-shaped horse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That could be once in a while you run way slower than normal, getting 12th. Other times you run way faster than normal and you get first. That would bring about a U-shaped graph, so to speak. Lark Hall Loyal Racing has a question in chat. Thank you for this. What is success for this horse? By lowering the overall odds, you will probably increase the value for resale, which is a win, even if it isn't winning lots of races. That's a good point. A lot of people shop for odds for better or for worse. It's just kind of how we shop, right? I feel like right now odds are kind of, especially the Griffin odds. The Griffin odds really kind of make my head spin,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
ignore them.
Ignore them. I mean, there's a lot of horses that are pulling under 10 odds in the Griffey, and then they're being sold only to find out it's a 20 odd horse. It's a 17 odd horse, right? So I would definitely steer new people maybe away from
100%
from buying a horse after it's only ran its Griffey. It should literally not matter to you, right? Like it doesn't exist, that sort of thing.
Just don't even look at it.
Right. But to kind of follow up on that question on what is success for this horse, I mean, really I want to bring it to positive ROI. Will we get there? Who knows? It's negative 30% ROI right now, right? That's a tall task. You know what I mean? But I would love to keep this horse. I would love to keep that Nakamoto blood in my stable long term. I've been on ZEDRUN since April. I've never sold a horse. I'm kind of diamond handsing all my horses, So, I mean, I want to turn this into a winner. That's why I grabbed MJ and I said, hey man, I need your help. Let's try this. You know what I mean? Let's try this. Rhino Killam asked, what's the chart we're using? This is MJ's tool. Let me see if I could throw it in the chat, or MJ, if you want to throw it in the chat.
I can throw it in chat.
This is something you should have bookmarked, like straight up. I'm just going to tell you, I have it right here on my browser, right at the top. This is definitely something you want to bookmark. I mean, of course, there's other tools out there. They're great. I use Haku. Mm-hmm. I use Know Your Horses. We all do, right?
Me too.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not romantic about the tool. They all are kind of different and provide utility kind of in their own way.
Absolutely.
Joe is just joining in. Got in late. No worries. There will be a replay over on MJ's VOD page after we get done. If you missed anything,
I got a question. Racing Reggie, you looked at my horse Perpetual Motion early in his career, and we thought 1600 was a good fit. 100 races later, what do we think? Racing Reggie, how many races did we give that recommendation, or did I give that recommendation on? Out of curiosity. Oh wow. Okay. I like it. Well, it looks like 1600's working out. You want to switch that over to paid, Sean, just to
sure,
kind of tighten it up and see if that changes things at all. Okay. So yeah, you're profitable at multiple distances. 0.04 at 1600. So it looks like that's going pretty well for you. 17.65 win rate. That's looking awesome. Looking very, very nice.
Right. I want to bring up real quick this far right column, which maybe if someone is new to your tool, they might not understand exactly what they're looking at. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is it's my calculation for preferred distance. You'll see a few other tools, and they're all great. And I'm not saying I disagree with them in any way, but mine, and just like I'm sure theirs are, kind of unique to them. And so my tool is designed to look at the speed, position, as well as your distribution of finishes. And so look at it in isolation as a number. So you might have one horse, for example, that gets a preferred distance score of 28. You might get another horse that has a preferred distance score of 0.8. And that's not necessarily better or worse than another. Just look at it in isolation of your horse. Look at it in isolation of everything else on the sheet. If you're new to the tool, the kind of workflow that I follow and I recommend people follow is start right. So start at preferred distance, kind of look at that to get an idea of maybe where you should be looking. It should be sorted by that highest to lowest. And then you want to look for drop off. So you've got 28 and you got 11. That's a pretty big drop off. Then you go down to 4, 2.3, 1, 5, and then point. If you have a lot of races and you're below 1, I would maybe look away a little bit or consider racing more if now when we look left, you see some things that you like. So 68 races, average place of 6.4. That's kind of right in the middle. Profitable, solid win rate. First through third, 30% of the time. Looks pretty good. I see nothing against 1600. Keeping going there. 1800 looks kind of intriguing at this point. Average odds aren't too far off. Profitable, 10% win rate, but 40% in first through third.
That's huge.
Definitely
that's
kind of
huge.
unique.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, just looking at it, you have 28, you have 11, and you have 4. Look at the earnings, positive. I mean, that's almost 1400. That's almost zero, right at zero. But still, look at 1800 and look at 1600 and look at the preferred distance score. I mean, that's right before it really drops off, right? Getting 28, getting 11, and then you go over and you look at the earnings, and it's okay, that kind of validates the preferred distance score a little bit, right?
Yeah. And I've had a few people anecdotally, and it's not going to be a silver bullet. It's not going to, in no way will I ever claim that it guarantees any sort of performance improvement. But I've had a handful of people come up to me and say wow, I'm running better. I'm running more of a U right now. And that's been awesome to hear. I hope it continues, and I hope it happens for more people. If you use the tool, you like it, it's beneficial, please let me know. I would love to hear that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Let's clear Nomad out of there. Let's just get Perpetual.
Sorry about that. I just realized
no worries.
that.
Yeah, that's it's the tool. It's the tool.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So I mean, same thing. You got a preferred distance score very high here, and that's where the earnings are. That's where the win rate is.
0.067. Wow. So even higher. Yeah.
Right.
25% win rate. Yeah. Wow.
Right. Good catch, by the way. Thank you for that.
Yeah. No worries.
Right.
But yeah, glad this is working out for you.
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't change much. I mean, the highest preferred distance is going to be what you would recommend they keep running at, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if kind of another note, this is actually a really good example. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend is kind of my rule of thumb. But then also make sure that the information on the left side of the chart makes sense too. And just kind of make sure kind of everything aligns or comes to as close to aligning as possible. The other thing I want to point out in this example is you'll notice that some of the distances have a blank preferred distance, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad distance. It just means doesn't have enough data yet to properly kind of calculate a score for it. So just give it a few more distances or races if you'd like. But otherwise, with perpetual motion, I mean, 1600 looks awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like they kind of lasered in on that distance as well.
Yeah.
So, we got a couple people asking us to check out horses. Let me grab this one real quick from OG Beef Stew. Make sure I cleared this one out. We could take a look.
I might have to update that just to do one horse always.
Yeah, that was my bad, guys. I apologize.
I do it all the time. So maybe I'll fix that. That's kind of bad if I'm the person that makes this and I'm making that mistake.
Right. All right. So yeah, no worries, Racing Reggie, no worries at all. So OG Beef Stew says, if y'all could check my horse Bordeaux out. I don't know. I probably said that wrong. I've worked my way up to class 1, but I feel like I'm losing more than I should. Can use some advice.
Okay, so 126 races. Let's throw the class filter on class 1. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so not many races paid.
Right. This might be too small of a sample size, do you think, or?
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, I think it's a little too small to tell.
Right.
So I throw in class 2 at this point just to see, like, combine them both together to see if that goes up. Or the 43. That's a little better, but a lot of them at one distance.
Right.
That's a 41% first through third with a 20% paid win rate. Standard deviation is higher, speed is higher. 1200 might be a distance. And then let's go ahead and expand that out to all classes and just see if that sticks. And kind of the all class is good for looking at like your average speed versus Z and standard deviation versus Z. Drilling down into classes gets more helpful for like win rate, average odds, things like that. In my opinion, at least. Okay. Yeah. So like 12 and 1,000 looked to be it to me. I like the speed versus Z. I like the standard deviation versus Z. You're profitable in both of those. Decent win rates. Really good first through thirds. I kind of lean towards just keep going with the 12s.
Yep, absolutely. Great preferred distance score there as well. Red Snap has one here we could take a look at. Let me pull that one up. Make sure I close this one. We're looking at paid in all classes. So Red Snap has asked Carl, not sure which distance, 16, 18, 2K, or 22.
Okay, so I like that you have like a similar amount of races here. Just looking at that, and you've got, okay, so those preferred distance scores are very, very similar. So now let's go look left. Let's look at average place. Also kind of similar, at least for the first 3 odds. I mean, this horse is like going across the board.
Yeah.
So like considering all those things are pretty much equal, I'm interested in 18 and 22 right now because the win rates are higher. 18, you've got a 40% first through third. Your speed is faster. Standard deviation is a little slower, but at 2200, you've got a faster speed and spot on standard deviation. So those would be kind of two places right now that I would look at. I would throw in maybe another 3, 6, maybe like 5, 6 races at those, then come back and reevaluate and go from there.
Right. And anyone that's asking us to look at horses, feel free to come back next week and let us know kind of how it went or what your week was like. Because I mean, we're talking about our horse, what we did for the previous week. Come back next week. Tell us about your horse.
Yeah.
Harrison,
none of it financial advice.
Yeah, never that. And Zed's very gray, right? Zed is a very gray thing. So, there's no end all be all answer for anything. Looks like Harrison said, I have one that's similar, and I could find I could pull up that horse for you if you don't mind. All right. Let me get rid of that one. All right. So this is Sophisticated Work Ethic.
Okay. I like the name.
Yeah, right. And so Harrison was saying, I have one that's similar to OG Beef's situation. I've worked my way up to class 1, but it feels like I've leveled off significantly, dialed into 2200, 2400, but almost like I'm getting work and definitely more sporadic with the odds. Any advice? Thanks again, as always.
So yeah, let's go ahead and drill down at 1,000. So we got 1317 odds and 1425. Or sorry, dial into class 1.
Sure.
13 odds, 14 odds, right there. Oh yeah, wow. Okay, so yeah, those odds definitely went up. Oh, right. That's at different distances. Sorry, 20 and 24.
Right. So not a lot of races in class 1.
Yeah, let's look at class 2.
All right, 29 races there.
Okay. What were those preferred distances again?
Looks like dialed into 22 and 24.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, those odds are definitely higher. So, I would keep going at 20. Man, that's hard because you've got such a large percentage of your finishes are that 4 through 8 spot, which is going to be hard because you're going to stay in that class. If you're open to the idea, man, that's hard to tell. Let's pull in class 3 as well.
See, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
With that just monster percentage on 4 through 8, right? Which like typically that kind of locks you in a class.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of reflected if you look down below, how the majority of finishes are in position 1 through 6.
Right. Exactly. You kind of see that here on the graph.
Which can be tough. Okay, so if this is my horse, I see, and I don't want to just like intentionally try and sandbag it. Maybe I'd look at, 2000s because it's not many races, but you've got some 1 through 3s, you've got some 9 through 12s in there. Your speed isn't bad. Your standard deviation's a little worse. But I would also maybe, and depending on when this comes out, but if this is my horse, I may hold off until the class system updates. And get a little things to kind of spread out a little more, and then kind of see where your horse fits in, or if they add things like I don't know if like weather's going to come or like different conditions for the track, fatigue even, and try and be really particular about your race selection.
Right. And
that's tough. That's a really tough horse to be in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you run into a situation where it's like you said, you may want to wait till the class system. We know there's a class system that's coming. It's confirmed that there's fatigue coming. There is what they call I think race condition or surface condition, referring to the weather, and then gate preference. So those are three things that are really going to shake up, shake up the way that races happen or the results of races and how these certain horses perform. So, that seems like a tough one. I have a question here from Cyrus. How many races are needed to get a good assessment with this tool?
It's my least favorite answer to give, but great question. It depends. So, do you have a rocket horse that's pulling, 7-8 odds, or are you pulling, 12 to 15 odds, 15 to 17 odds? It really, really depends. Like I said earlier, my horse didn't run its fastest distance till after 100 races. So my recommendation is that if you have a newer horse, a younger horse, race it out wide. So race across distances first, get kind of a ballpark. And at that, I'm looking at, okay, is there anything that stands out? Did I run one race that was, super fast compared to the other ones? And at that point, I'm also looking at odds a little more than I would maybe later on. And then so after I go wide, I see something that kind of catches my eye, then I would start to go deep. So, if I see there's something that pretty good odds, maybe I ran it a little faster, I might run then 5-7 races at that, see how that kind of plays out, levels out, and then work from there. Maybe I stick with it, maybe I change. Preferred distance and evaluating races is something that is going to change a lot in the early days of racing a horse. Just because it's perfect example is Nomad. We really liked 1800, and sure, you can make the argument that, you needed a much larger sample size for Nomad, but kind of like what Sean said earlier, it's not realistic to race out 100 races a week at a distance to test it out and then do 100 races the next week, at least not for kind of an average ZED player.
No.
Keep in mind that this is something that evolves and changes, especially if it's a younger horse.
Right. Exactly. And I've heard that echoed throughout the community. People will say it takes a while for your horse to warm up, almost, where you just got to give it some time and let it run a lot of races, and obviously the more races you run, the quicker you'll kind of figure that stuff out. Ryman says, trying to understand your tool as I check out my horses. Can you explain the significance of the preferred distance scaling? Like, how significant is it for a horse to have 5 preferred distance, five preferred distance score versus maybe 1 at the other? So if there's a drop off from 5 to 1, are we saying that's significant? Let's look at this horse, for example. You have 10 here, obviously huge drop off, but not a lot of variance after you drop off from 10.
Yeah. So, and again, look at it in isolation first. So, and think of it just kind of like the sort, this is preferred distance is your guide. It's not set in stone. It's not a silver bullet. It's a way of kind of, if anything, just sorting where you should maybe start to look.
A starting point, right?
Exactly. It's a starting point. It's a starting point. Yes.
I've heard you say this several times: start right and move left whenever you come to use this tool, right? So it's just 100%. It's merely a starting point, and it's not the gospel. You know what I mean? It's not going to take you to the promised land 100% of the time.
See, Just Win has a question about their horse. My horse, Bene Fortuna, seems to have better odds at sprint 1200, 1000, but at 2000, 2600 seems more standard deviation and more U-shaped. Which do you guys think is best? Thanks for the help.
Okay.
Majority of races in class 3.
All right, let's get that data pulled up. I'm going to take this one off. And did you want me to look at all classes here? Let me know when you want to zero in.
Sure. So again, let's start. We 768 449 169. Okay, so at 2000, 18 races, average place 589, average odds pretty solid, not bad, profitable, good win rate, good first through third, speed is faster and standard deviation's faster. 2000 looks interesting to me. I like that a lot. And so looking at 1000 and 1200. So yeah, 1200 right below it there. Better odds. To me, I odds aren't everything. Similar place, less win rate, higher first through third. Yeah, very similar. I like 2000 over 1200, just looking at like the performance data of it. Speed is a little slower and standard deviation is a little worse. So I prefer, right now at least, I prefer 2000 over 1200.
Good deal. Good deal. Good deal. All right. Checking out the chat here. Ryman says, okay, but if my horse has 25 under preferred distance, then that's definitely it, right?
Nope, absolutely not. You could have a preferred distance of 100 and the next one be, 0.5. No, always it's just a kind of rule of thumb. It's a starting point. I like what you said, starting point. I think that's really good.
We could bring that horse up. He's talking about tax exempt. I know Ryman. I know his horse. So let's get this one pulled up here.
No problem, Justin. And you don't have to look at paid depending on your racer. If you're if you have a horse that has higher odds, 20s, 30s, maybe consider more free races. But I like looking at paid because I think it's a truer judgment of performance.
So this, real quick, this is what he means right here. He's got preferred distance
25.5. Okay, cool.
Big drop off.
Average place, average odds, profitable, 15% win. Yeah, so like I like 12 because you've got like the perfect scenario for this is that everything comes in alignment. And that you've got the preferred distance calculation. Again, it's a barometer. It says like, hey, this could be it. It's a sort. It's a starting point. And then if we look at, so comparing like 12 and 1400, you've got, more than right around double the races, but you also got some profitability. You've got a higher win rate, higher first through third, a lower 4 through 8, and a higher 9 through 12. Speed's a little slower, but your standard deviation's pretty solid. Yeah, it's I do like 1200 for your horse, Ryman. If you wanted to like kind of expand out, have some fun with it, look at like 1600. That could be kind of cool. Even though you have a good amount in 4 through 8, you're getting actually no, I take that back. I stand corrected. You've got a really high win rate. That's tough. Stick with 1200.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Stick with 1200 there, Ryman. Okay, this is a great question. Mal says, what's the best thing to look for when buying a horse with a budget of around 250 USD? Or should I look for 2 horses and try to breed a rocket? That's a hard question to answer, It really is.
Let's
talk
come
about
back to my stream next week.
Yeah,
or this week.
Yeah,
when I release my tool. So
I'll say this.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, go for it, Sean.
When a lot of people ask me, like, you learn about Zed, you want to get in, you want to buy a horse, right? You have whatever budget you're working with. I think the question you got to ask yourself is, what are your goals? What are your objectives for Zed? Because people play Zed very differently. Some people are into breeding super coat colors, and they're all about building out a stable that's going to be basically the Gainsborough colored stable, or you know what I mean? Or they're into super coats, right? That's one way to play it. You could build out a breeding stable where you're looking to make passive, semi-passive income on a monthly basis for years to come. So that would mean maybe buying a lot of horses that are really bad at racing, but you get a lot of them. You get a lot of low price horses, and you get a lot of females and males in your stable. Some people, they just only want to win races, right? So there's all sorts of ways you could play it. If you were only trying to win races, what you might do is buy unraced horses, test them out, sell them for a little bit of a loss, try another one, so on and so forth. So I think the question you got to ask yourself is, how are you going to play the game? what do you want to do within Zed Run? I mean, do you want to be a collector and just hold on to some sort of super coat, super rare coat, something like that? That's a question that you got to kind of figure out on your own on how you want to play Zed. And MJ is going to have a tool sometime soon to help people when they're shopping for horses, right?
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. There you go. Make sure you guys are following this channel, MJ Stables, here on Twitch. Racing Reggie says, if you guys have time, I would love for you to check out my filly, Noble Heart. Absolutely. MJ, you got a couple more minutes?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to be looking at Noble Heart. I'm going to pull this one up here. I'm going to take out tax exempt. Okay, so this is the horse here. We have it pulled up, and Racing Reggie said she's very low odds, but has seemingly underperformed. All right, so what do we see here? We always start. This is our starting point. We have a 8.8 preferred distance score and a 3.21. Then we kind of get a massive drop off.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to look at the first two rows then. So we've got 1600 and 1400. We've got a. Let me reread that. This horse looks good.
Yeah, it looks like a good horse. The comment was, if you guys have time, I would love for you to check out my filly, Noble Heart. She's very low odds, but seemingly underperformed. I mean, a 20% win rate at 1,400, a 13% win rate at 1,600, and then a 16% win rate at 1,000 and 1,200. I'd say that performs better than a lot of horses out there.
Yeah, I would continue to look at depending on what class you're in. Look at 1,400 because you've got 40% first through third, 20% 4 through 8, 40% 9 through 12. Like that could be and kind of similar in 1,600. But just higher numbers there. 1,400 looks exciting. I would have some fun trying that out a little more.
Right.
I like the horse. Horse.
I think you got something there. That's not something I would sell. I could tell you that. That could very well be one of the U-shaped horses out here. Bryman had a comment here. 2 horses for 150 would not get you very much, but you would be able to get 2 horses and start breeding. Cell says, thanks for the stream, gents. Got a meeting I need to go to for work. Hope the rest of the stream goes well. Cheers as always. Thanks for the tips and advice. Yeah, man. Thank you very much for being here, guys. Any last minute questions or last minute horses that you guys want to check out? Global Noble. Let's check out one more before we get out of here.
Do we get Kills Cam for Mod Dogs?
What was the name of the horse?
Kills Cam.
Kills CAM?
Yep. I think I almost bought that horse. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let me isolate that data here. We'll take a look at it. All right, so only 7 races here. Yeah. What would you say, MJ? I mean, this is 7 races. You probably can't draw many conclusions, right?
No, yeah, like the 2,600 you see is faster, but there's so few 2,600 races, but the standard deviation is really slow or really tight. So that could be something, but it's going to be hard to get in 2,600 races, and it's hard to like give judgment, even though it is one finish 4 through 8. You got 8th. After one race, I'd say continue to race wide and then start to race deep.
Right. Exactly. UFO note says, UFO says, according to this data, do you see 1,600 as the Enigma distance with only a select number of horses preferring it? That's a good question. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about 1,600 and kind of the weird sort of things that happen with Grippies and 1,600. What's your overall take on the 1,600 distance? And maybe why a lot of horses don't just seem to, you know, just not prefer it. Like it's not many horses prefer distance.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's just very, very congested. It has the most races. Um, the yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the most races and most people gravitate towards it. Um, I don't have anything solid on it. I don't.
Right.
But there's definitely something weird there.
Yeah,
For
right.
sure.
That's if we could say anything, there's something goofy going on, you know. All right, we're gonna do one more. We're gonna get out of here, guys. MJ, what days are you gonna be streaming this week?
Right now I'm looking at hopefully streaming tomorrow.
Okay.
Right around 8 p.m.
Okay.
Subject to change. So I'll either be on tomorrow or Wednesday, I believe, around 8 p.m.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, always follow the Twitter to get that information on when the streams, myself or MJ, for the next stream. Golden Glow Master, friend of the show, says, can I get you to look at Gallant Tune? I'm unsure where to go with them, right? So I got this horse pulled up. We've got our paid races selected here. And then, as always, going to start here on the preferred distance score. I'm seeing 5.6, and then it looks like a drop off down to 1.5.
Sean, you want to walk through this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm starting on the right here. I'm going to work my way over. I see 40% first through third, 12% win rate. Average odds are all kind of around the same, but your average placement here, 5.38. It looks like you kind of have already honed in on the 1600. I don't see any big outliers with the standard deviation or even the average speed, except for that 2400. But again, that's only one race. Dog asked in the chat, what tool are you using? This is MJ's tool. MJ, do you want to throw that in the chat?
Yep.
That's good. It's a really good idea to bookmark this up on your browser. I mean, it's a go-to kind of an everyday tool. But I mean, would you agree with that? I started on the right. I mean, it kind of looks like we've honed in on the 1600.
100%.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would keep running it there. It looks like you got it figured out already. Golden Glow. Keep on running at 1600.
Absolutely.
Right. Guys, I think we are out for the night. Again, this is something that MJ does quite frequently on his stream. We just wanted to give an opportunity to do some Q&A tonight. That's something that we did last week for a little bit, and want to give you guys the opportunity to review the data on our horse and then ask your own questions, and we could all kind of look at horses together. But MJ, we know what we're going to do. We'll be back in 1 week, and hopefully we'll get a dub.
Oh, we're close. I can feel it.
Absolutely. I'm going to go enter some races right now and get started. We will be back here next week. That's going to be 10 o'clock Central Time. Right here on MJ Stables Twitch. Make sure you guys are following, and then I will upload in a couple days to my YouTube. But that's it. You guys have a wonderful night, guys.